Alright, what's going on, guys? So we've just gone through a very busy period with Elden Ring Nightreign. With all the updates and post-launch support that game has been receiving, it's been a very busy year since the game's release. But with the Deep of Night update being the last thing that was data mined and known to be planned before the DLC coming out sometime before the end of the fiscal year. But as for right now, it seems that we've entered a pretty big dead period. And that dead period seems to be expanding to FromSoftware as a whole as we look forward to the Nightreign DLC, Duskbloods, and whatever they have planned next. Now is just not the time to show it. But despite that, today we actually have a lot of small stuff to talk about, a lot of news relating to FromSoftware that doesn't fully warrant a video on its own, but everything we're going to talk about today is definitely worth knowing if you're someone that likes to stay up to date on all things FromSoftware. And if you are, then be sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And now let's get into it. To start off today, let's start out with something pretty small. We have some good news for Elden Ring Nightreign, and I guess FromSoftware as a whole. Not really surprising, but it's that time of year again where all the big game shows happen and game awards shows. And the official Elden Ring account has just announced that Elden Ring Nightreign is nominated for Best Multiplayer Game at the Golden Joystick Awards. Now, the Golden Joysticks are a very prestigious game awards show. I would say in context of all the other ones, they're about number 3 or 4, I think. The Game Awards being number 1, obviously. But Golden Joysticks is just slightly below that in terms of industry influence. Now, when you look at the competition for Best Multiplayer Game this year, it might be a little steep. I won't be surprised if Nightreign doesn't win because it's up against games like Split Fiction, Battlefield 6, and Mario Kart World. Now, I know a lot of people really love Split Fiction. Personally, I haven't played it, but I heard nothing but great reviews about that game. Battlefield 6 as well is without a doubt the best FPS this year, and is currently insanely popular at the moment, so I could see that game taking it as well. I don't think Mario Kart's really going to make any waves, but Nightreign was also a big powerhouse this year, and FromSoftware fans are incredibly loyal, and since this is an audience voted award, it's going to go one of those 3 ways. The only thing that might hold it back here is that Nightreign is in a bit of a lull like we were talking about in the intro, and it wasn't nearly as popular as the base game of Elden Ring. But if you want to go support Nightreign in this award show, the voting is open on Games Radar, and you can go cast your vote for Best Multiplayer Game. You don't have to make an account or anything. But even if Nightreign doesn't win at the Golden Joysticks, it has been winning in other places. Now, this next one happened a few weeks ago. I wanted to talk about this earlier, but I just didn't get the chance to. It just didn't fit in any of the videos we had so far. But the Japan Game Awards happened a few weeks ago, and at that show they hand out Excellence Awards. Now, the final recipient of an Excellence Awards trophy was, of course, Elden Ring Nightreign. Now, at that awards show was Junya Ishizaki, who went on to claim the award, and he delivered a short speech, wherein he very briefly discusses the DLC, and I'll play a short clip of that now.
はい、FromSoftware の、本作のディレクターの石崎です。本作は皆さん分かっている通りスピンオフだったりマルチプレイだったりで、だいぶ尖ったり、冒険したようなタイトルになって、どうなるかなっていうところは、開発している私自身もあったところはあったんですけども、結果として多くの方に共感していただけた結果、この場に立てているかなと思っていますので、そこは非常に感謝をしているという形になります。で、投票していただいた皆さん、開発チームのみんなに改めてお礼を申し上げたいと思います。で、現在、追加コンテンツも必死に開発中ですので、よければそちらもご期待いただければなと思います。本日はどうもありがとうございました。
So I'm glad to see Nightreign get some recognition there. That's always great. Now, it does sound like they're still working pretty heavily on the DLC. As Nightreign stands right now, that would be good to have before the end of the year, but I do need to remind everybody they did specify that it's going to be coming in Q4 of the fiscal year, which could give them a window all the way to March of 2026. Hopefully we don't have to wait that long, but we currently have no other news about the DLC, so that may very well be the case. Also in the news, FromSoftware is still hiring, expanding the company across pretty much every position, with both new employees and contractors. And they do this actually very often, which is extremely surprising when you consider the gaming industry as a whole right now. And I know you guys see it all the time, especially with the news around EA recently and the rise of AI. You have all these gaming companies that are offloading employees like crazy and switching over to AI to cut costs, whether that be a decision of the executives or a consequence of poor poor sales. And I've been seeing company after company completely go down the drain because of that. It's been happening to Call of Duty, it happened to Bungie, I believe Ubisoft had a lot of layoffs too. But then you have a company like FromSoftware, who have year after year, despite the turmoil in the gaming industry, been reinvesting in people and their own company and delivering banger after banger because of it. And it doesn't seem like that trend's gonna stop. The only thing that I could see being a hiccup is that I don't believe Duskbloods is gonna sell well. Not because I think that's gonna be a bad game or anything, but being a Switch 2 exclusive, you're alienating a ton of your base with that. But with Nintendo being the producer, they probably already allocated budget accordingly, and I doubt that's gonna have an effect on FromSoftware as a company. But I wanted to talk about that because it's a good indicator of the health of FromSoftware and a good indication of the future, where if they can maintain this posture of expansion and investing in people rather than AI, they're the ones who are going to survive the downturns and stick around when other companies die off. So once again, that's always great to see. But it kind of leads into what I want to talk about next, and this does relate back to FromSoftware, because one thing we've been talking about over the last year, and even a little bit before, and if you're a regular here on the channel, you will absolutely be knowing about, and that is the push for Sony to keep acquiring more and more and grow closer and closer to FromSoftware. As you know, Sony essentially came through and saved Kadokawa, the parent company of FromSoftware, from a hostile takeover by a Korean company, and even after that, they've continued to raise their stake in FromSoftware specifically, which brings me to this article that I found pretty interesting. Rumor: Sony could ditch Western studios, may shift to Japanese devs and traditional stories for exclusives, if Ghost of Yotei and Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet fail. Now before we get into this, I don't know this news outlet. I think this is honestly the first article that I've seen from them, but this lines up with a lot of what we've seen, especially on the FromSoftware side of things. So let's read through this real quick. A source close to Sony tells that Park Place that internal discussions in Japan suggest a major strategic reset could be coming for PlayStation's exclusive lineup. According to our source, both Ghost of Yotei from Sucker Punch and Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet from Naughty Dog are being viewed as last chances for Western developers to land major exclusives under the Sony company's current direction. Our source claimed, another rumor I'm also hearing is that Naughty Dog's Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet and Ghost of Yotei are the last chance for these Western developers. If they fail, after that Sony is going full focus on Japanese developers and instead going back to traditional stories and characters. They're citing China winning on the gaming market with Genshin Impact, Wukong, and Wuthering Waves as a reason to change. Now first off, they are claiming this as just a rumor, but I gotta be perfectly honest. This kinda does sound like what's going on, especially if you've been paying attention to all that's been happening with FromSoftware and Sony. When it comes to gaming companies, Sony is now the biggest stakeholder in FromSoftware, and FromSoftware is probably the main company that producers like Sony, like Nintendo, want to be investing in right now. Now when it comes to the games they mentioned specifically, personally I didn't even realize Ghost of Yotei even came out yet, but it seems to be doing decent when you look at the sales numbers. If they are to be believed, there's a lot of conflicting reports going on. And to be perfectly honest, Intergalactic does not look good at all. I would not be surprised if that game fails. Now when it comes to Sony and FromSoftware, Sony does seem to respect FromSoftware enough to let them make their own decisions. However, if this rumor is to be believed, it would not surprise me if we do end up getting a PlayStation exclusive FromSoftware game for the PS6. Now I'm not going to say the game that starts with B, but if I were Sony and this rumor is true, FromSoftware would be the absolute first company I would be going to make me a game that can sell a console. And since they are the primary stakeholder in FromSoftware, that is a call they absolutely can make if they want to. Now again, that's just a rumor, but this article did catch my attention and it seems to fit with what we've been seeing so far in relation to Sony. But I guess in order to get a true answer, we're just gonna have to wait and see when the official sales numbers for these games come out, probably sometime next year. But anyways, that's all the news we currently have. Again, it's pretty much a dead period right now, not a lot going on, but it'll ramp up closer to the end of the year. Either way though, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe. If you're new around here, let me know all your thoughts down in the comments section below, and with all that, I will catch you in the next one.